Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 22 My Team Career Mode. This is episode number 76 today for the Belgian Grand Prix in Season 5. If you guys did miss the previous episode at the sprint round at Austria, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one, because we played some massive gambles in that race. We threw the dice not once, but twice in that race. The first one was a major gamble that actually we had to wait quite a few laps to see if it would pay off on the intermediate tyres when everyone else was on dries for a couple of laps. And then in the dying laps, as the rain pelted down around the Red Bull ring, we threw the dice once again and went on to the full wet tyres. Didn't think we would pull it off, and it was looking unlikely maybe until the last couple of corners where it was simply too wet for the intermediates to work, and the man who was in first place, Felipe Drogovic, just made a mistake in the final couple of corners, went wide, and ultimately we had better traction at the final corner to take the victory around Austria after the final corner. So that was an unbelievable ending to what was already a hectic race anyway, and quite a gamble one anyway for the intermediate period. So yeah, what a way to end that off. Probably one of the best races we've had in the entire series and on the game in terms of the strategy calls we made and just how satisfying that was to come through the final bend after, you know, we could have easily thrown away the race. You know, if the rain hadn't come down, we would be talking about a very different ending to that Grand Prix and mood, but things worked out for us, and I feel like, you know, the vibe right now this season with Lotus this year is just mega. I think the car is working really well. You can see all the teams now are so close together. They're starting to plateau because I reckon all of us are thinking about also saving R&D because we didn't get a regulation change into this season. There probably is going to be one into Season 6. I'll be very surprised if there isn't. So you can see myself and every other team there plateauing because everyone's probably saving R&D to try and negate that regulation change that's impending. But it means that pretty much we're all level pegging, near enough at maxed out cars for most of us, apart from the Porsche, Williams and Aston Martin. But despite that, I think also we've stepped up our driving and the decision making we've been making this season. You know, the win that we got at Shanghai, going long on the mediums, worked out better for us to have track position. Austria, going for those extra pit stops, going for pit stops when no one else was, and going against the grain has worked out for us. So yeah, the vibe is very solid in this season so far. But as has been the case for every episode so far, you know, there's no guarantee of performance any round, because track to track things may change. Some teams may prefer certain circuits, and focus and momentum of AI is a massive thing. And let's just hope my focus in real life is going to be at the maximum to try and keep up what we've got. Because for the first time in the whole series, I have a really good feeling and a desire actually to try and maintain this kind of large lead we've got in the championship. You know, after so many attempts on this game and failure in the Drivers' Championship, I am really raring just to try and do a number on the entire grid and try and wrap up the championship maybe even earlier than the final round. Because how many finales have we had, title deciding finales, where yes, it's gone our way in the constructors, but we're yet to get that Drivers' Championship. So maybe we need to be trying to aim for the stars and aiming to dominate a bit in order to get that very first Drivers' Championship on F1 22. But it's not going to be easy because you've got people driving at the maximum. Felipe Drogovic topped that Q1 session. Apart from one round, he has got second place in every single race. So he's going to be hungry, trying to get that elusive first win for the year. But also, that is unrivaled consistency. You know, one round of a blip, but other than that, consistent P2s that could also win you a championship. So we need to make sure we are consistent as ever, and we try and sustain the pace that we've shown so far this season. And good to see Tsunoda picking up a little bit and getting to the top 10 shootout this time round at the Belgian Grand Prix. He's had a shaky time, let's agree, at Lotus so far as our teammate. We've really not seen any kind of real speed that he maybe showed in glimpses for Red Bull last season, but I still believe that there is a quick driver there to unlock. And in a season that's so close and so fine, there are going to be upsets up and down the field in qualifying and in the races. And here, after a brilliant podium in Austria, Verstappen is back to being knocked out in Q2 for Ferrari, although his teammate Mick Schumacher made it in. So maybe now is the time for Mick Schumacher to shine a little bit in Ferrari this weekend. Both Mercedes make it through, Audis, one Red Bull as per usual, Lando Norris the one making it through this time round, and then one McLaren as well of Pierre Gasly's. Piastri just can't seem to find that pace versus Pierre Gasly, who seems to be dragging that McLaren consistently up there. And just, to be fair, look how close things are, less than 2/10 covers the entire top 10. So it is pretty fine. So you can't actually fault any driver that does just about get knocked out, because, we face the same thing at Monaco. It is very tough. If you just don't get that lap clicking at the right time, because the grid's so close, you're going to get so punished for it. And speaking about a lap clicking, feeling very good around Spa. The car is reacting to what I want to do. The nose is getting turned in straight away. And, as the car rolls through, not being unsettled too much. Slight lock up in the second last corner. But I think we've got a pretty good lap here. We're facing stiff competition, though, from the likes of Felipe Drugovich in the Repsol Haas. But across the line, and it's going to be back-to-back fastest laps in Q3. Of course, pole position technically at Austria was decided by the sprint round, but in terms of pure qualifyings, we've done back-to-back P1s here for the first time ever on this game. So I think this is the biggest indicator that this might be our season, because you guys know me, if you've watched me for a while on various F1 games, I am not a qualifier. I gain a bit more speed in the race with kind of race conditions. Over one lap, I'm prone to some mistakes, feeling the pressure a little bit, maybe having to just, deliver over that one lap. But we've done it today. But again, like in Austria, it's so fine there. 0.064. Felipe Drugovich was behind us, but he's on the front row, and I'm sure he's going to be looking for revenge from the Austrian Grand Prix. But look at that. Yuki Tsunoda, our teammate, on the second row, he's actually picked up. Maybe he heard us a little bit, dissecting his poor performances this season so far. He's really turned it up for the books here around Spa. So could this be the start of a kickstart for his season? And it's a really topsy-turvy one, because surprised to see Leclerc down in P7, to be honest. I don't know where his pace went from Q2 to Q3, and you can see actually quite a bit of difference from the top 5 to the bottom 5 in this top 10 shootout. So I don't know whether it was track evolution, maybe these guys didn't have enough tyres because they overused them in the previous sessions, but whatever the case, it looks like it's going to be myself and Drugovich. Once again, the top 2 in the championship lock out the front row, because Drugovich has got ahead of Leclerc, of course, going into this round. So on we go to Sunday, and let the good times roll on.
We're in Belgium once again for today's round of the Formula One World Championship. It's a race that the great Ayrton Senna won 6 times, and in 2019, Charles Leclerc became the first driver to take their maiden win here since Michael Schumacher back in 1992. So here we are once again, ready to go racing through the Ardennes forest. 4.35 miles of long straights, fast corners, and massive elevation changes. It makes this not only one of the most exciting circuits on the calendar, but one that makes for some consistently high quality racing as well. Simply put it, there's no place quite like it. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. It's the owner-driver then in pole position, and Felipe Drugovich completes the front row. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Tsunoda, Norris, George Russell and Sainz, Leclerc, Vettel, Mick Schumacher and Pierre Gasly, Albon, Verstappen, Oscar Piastri and Perez, Bottas, Liam Lawson, Kevin Magnussen and Fernando Alonso, Ricciardo, Ocon, Hülkenberg, and Lance Stroll brings the grid to a close. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. Now I wonder, Anthony Davidson, might we be in for some early pit stops today from the midfield teams? Trying to put a bit of pressure on or disrupt things for the leaders?
If you're in the middle of the pack, you know, you got your own race to run. I don't think they're going to be thinking about causing trouble up front. However, closer to the head of the pack, don't be surprised to see some split strategies. If you're running second and third, for example, bringing one car in for an undercut while leaving the other one out there longer can put a lot of pressure on the leader and maybe force them into an error.
I have a feeling, just like the Austrian Grand Prix, the man alongside me on the front row is going to be absolutely gunning for me on the opening lap. But the difference is here at Spa, no sprint race. This is the real deal. Only one attempt at this to get this right off the 5 red lights. But you've got people like Tsunoda and Lando Norris in the Red Bull with things to prove for their respective teams, because Tsunoda needs to kickstart his season. Lando Norris, well, he'll be hoping he just doesn't suffer any reliability issues for Red Bull. I mean, Red Bull had a howler last episode as well at their home race with, you know, both their drivers breaking their front wings. So both with things to prove on the second row. Even Russell, you know, compared to Leclerc, he has something to prove to come back a little bit. And his teammate, who's very much been leading the charge for the Silver Arrow. So a lot of different storylines happening right behind us. But for us on pole, I'm hoping one storyline will just continue, and that's the good vibes and good momentum that we have got ourselves as a player, because we're in pole position once again as we go to 5 red lights to the Belgian Grand Prix. Our car turned towards Drugovich as we go to lights out, and we're underway, and we're trying to squeeze out the Brazilian into turn 1, but he's managed to hold it through and has had a good enough exit off the lights out that he's actually through into P1 after the apex. We tried our best to maneuver our car to maybe just make it a bit harder for him, but in the end that Haas just had too much traction off the line. But the good thing is we're right up his gearbox, we're pretty much pushing him up the hill and now down the Kemmel Straight, moving everywhere left and right, trying to suss out where Felipe is going to brake. He's chosen the inside line, we're on the outside, but he's taken too much curb, so now we have a chance maybe to feed it round the outside. A little bit off circuit there though, Drugovich on the inside, and to be honest that was a bit off circuit, so Drugovich rolls through to probably take a rightful P1 again, but we're not going to give him any rest. We're going to come back at him. We're both so slow through the left-hander, trying to give each other room. Down the hill towards Puon, we retake P1. Drugovich slots in for P2. Tsunoda just about holds up to third place there, struggling for some grip on the rear end ahead of the 2 Mercedes cars of Russell, Leclerc. Norris has had a bit of a shocking start from P4 down to P6, and he's got the 2 Audi cars for company of Sainz and Vettel. But for company for myself, it's just all Drugovich as he comes through on the left-hand side. It's a drag race, and despite deploying all the battery down that straight, you can clearly see the Haas is very slippery in a straight line, and that's going to be tough to beat today. But we just managed to hold off his attacks. But for how long can we do this? Drugovich to the inside again. We squeeze him out and we just hold firm, but I'm a bit worried about how quick that Haas is in a straight line, and for good reason, because on the end of lap 2, Drugovich is right up our rear wing. We have to actually go defensive through Blanchimont, which is a weird one, but Drugovich almost was trying to go around the outside, but instead he'll go to the outside for the second last corner to the inside at bus stop chicane. But we've got the better exit, but that Haas just keeps on pulling and pulling in a straight line as we go up the gears. He's on the outside. We're trying to get the elbow out just to squeeze him out, but then we get a dab of oversteer, and that's going to allow Drugovich to get up into P1. Just that quick snap didn't allow us to stay side by side into Eau Rouge, but it's fine because you almost want to be behind the driver going down the Kemmel Straight. The Brazilian gives us a bit of a squeeze towards the grass, and here comes Yuki Tsunoda of all people. Tsunoda on the inside, it's 3 wide, and Tsunoda trying to get up into the lead. We are actually on the inside, which was actually the worst place to be for that corner because that curb on the inside is so deadly. So you saw I was so tentative on the throttle, and Drugovich has actually managed to just about wrestle the car through on the left-hand side of the circuit to get ahead through down as we go down all these corners. Behind one of our other championship rivals, Leclerc, probably frustrated at being held up by Russell, but through Pouon, we're a bit wide there, you saw, gutting on the curb on the outside, and Russell is through, up into P3. We're going to try and come back at him. We're going to squeeze him out as we go wide on purpose to the left-hand side of the circuit, and Russell squeezed out so much that he's lost 2 positions, and that is what happens when the grid is so close. You're all maxed out cars. One little moment, one mistake, one squeeze out, and you're going to get absolutely mullered. And so Leclerc is up into P4. Sainz now all of a sudden in the top 5, whilst his teammate down below in P11, Sebastian Vettel. Where has the Vettel gone from round 1 where he won the opening race? It seems like after 2 seasons of Sebastian Vettel brilliance, things may be changing, and things might be changing at the top end of this race. Drugovich tried to have a go at Tsunoda, failed to do so, and Yuki holds on to P1, and Drugovich has got it all crossed up. He's lost some pace through the next couple of corners, and we've swooped through to steal P2 to make it a 1-2 now for this Lotus AAR team. It's absolutely glorious to see. This is the Tsunoda we wanted to see leading the way, but now can we chase after him and try to reverse things and go for another race win in this season to try and extend that lead in the championship? Behind, though, Drugovich close behind, followed by Leclerc, Sainz, Russell, and then a smaller gap then to Lando Norris, who seems to really be struggling on those mediums. Schumacher and Verstappen, the 2 Ferraris in pairs and tandem, chasing after him. Albon rounds out the top 10, Vettel, and then Piastri, the lead of the 2 struggling McLarens for outright race pace. Things have certainly changed a little bit in this landscape of Formula 1 in this game from last season. And that includes us, because we are so hungry just to keep on racking up the points. And so with that, we are chasing after our teammate and might just make a move on the outside of Blanchimont into the bus stop chicane now. Side by side, tyre wall to tyre wall, and Tsunoda locks up. Tsunoda locks up, showing maybe that lack of experience leading a Formula 1 Grand Prix. And we get up into P1 fairly easily. Tsunoda, though, coming back at us. We squeeze him to the outside. We've locked up ourselves, though, and we've gone deep. Tsunoda with the switchback, and he's back into the lead of the race. And all of a sudden now, it may be a 4-way fight. Drugovich is there as well, and Leclerc close behind in the Silver Arrow. Up the hill, now through to the Kemmel Straight. Can we re-overtake Tsunoda? On the left-hand side, he's going to be defenseless. No DRS. We're deploying all the battery as well, down to about 20 percentile as we go down into the next right-hander. And now Yuki's feeling all the pressure as Felipe Drugovich is side by side with him, and Leclerc is just watching their battle, and also, you know, in the background, Sainz and Russell aren't too far away either. Lap 7, we're trying to break away a little bit. We're still under 1 second though, so they've both got DRS off us. But Drugovich is powering through to try and get P2. This is a sensational battle as Drugovich slips through on the inside, then just before the next right-hander as they now go down the hill at this elevating circuit, and he's straight onto the back chasing after us. That Haas has ridiculous pace at this circuit in a straight line. Look at that. He just powers past with DRS. To be fair, we're not deploying any battery, you would have noticed on the bottom right there, because I knew he was coming after us. There's no point wasting battery trying to defend that futile effort. We're going to instead save battery by not deploying it for most of this lap and come back at him at the end of the lap, I hope, through towards Blanchimont and the bus stop. So just playing it a bit tactically there as we now run through the top 10, still tail-ended by Albon. Vettel P11 pretty close there, so just on the cusp of points, but as I alluded to earlier, a lack of speed from Vettel now, and a few other drivers as well, including Bottas, Pierre Gasly and Piastri. Where has their pace gone today? Magnussen and the Porsche Williams quite close to them, but here we are then, back to our POV, chasing after Drugovich, and we've got now over 60% battery to use down this straight. Oh, the curb! No! Oh, God! It's all gone wrong for us! The curb spat us out through the right-hander, and we've taken Tsunoda with us. Yuki! No! Oh, that's such a shame for Tsunoda. I feel so bad for him. He was doing so well. This was meant to be his kickstart race. Oh, goodness. Oh, I'm so sorry, Tsunoda. I'm so sorry. That is so unfortunate. He was just ironically, he was way too close to me. And he just got caught up in that. His racing line was right behind me. And he's been caught up in that. But what was that curb? I felt so confident that I was flat out deploying battery. And I was fine doing that on the previous laps. But the RNG sometimes, the curbs on this game is just insane. And this time around, it just didn't work out for us, and it just spat us out. I think that's just a bit unfortunate, to be honest, because we had so much confidence in the car. Maybe it was a bit overconfidence from me. You know, potentially we could have waited a split second to deploy the ERS. Maybe that extra battery torque was the thing that spanned the tyres out, but I had no idea that curb was going to just spin us so violently. You know, maybe a little wobble you can catch, but not a complete, you know, spin round. And so it means now all of us are in the pit lane making a pit stop because the full course safety car is out for that horrendous accident with Tsunoda that has taken him out of this Grand Prix. That is a shame, and I've got to put it in my hand of, you know, we can't really blame Tsunoda or judge his season with that in mind, because I think he did amazingly this race so far. So, you know, I hope he can just, you know, get that, you know, take that away from his mind and just continue that good work he was doing into the next round, because he was doing so well. Could have been a double podium this afternoon, but now all of a sudden we're down to P9. Funnily enough, actually, we've actually gained a position in the pit stops because everyone got double stacked in that, so we've actually ended up a bit higher than we were before we entered the pit lane, but we're now behind a load of cars that we were miles ahead of: Albon, Vettel, Russell, and we've got all the work to do. And unfortunately, my rivals, Drugovich, Leclerc, they're in the top three. Sainz is up there in P2 as well, and, you know, we're off the win with Monaco. You know, he strings together some results. Sainz, well, could also get himself in the championship contention potentially in the next couple of rounds. So this is an important race for us to try and limit the damage now. That is the job today, because I'm not really thinking, because I'm hoping we can get back up to maybe challenge them by the end of the race, but there's no guarantee because of the maxed out cars, because we're all close together. You know, you've been seeing it today. These guys are fighting so hard for every position. It's not going to be an easy one to overtake these cars. None of them are outright slower than us, and a few of them actually have the medium tyre on, a la Alexander Albon ahead of us in P8, Lawson in P14. I believe Verstappen actually got caught out in the round of pit stops, and he's a lot lower versus his teammate, who I think is up in the top 4 for Mick Schumacher. But yeah, so some of these guys on mediums, and these hard tyres will take a bit of time to warm up, and you can actually see that proof right here on lap 11 as we've gone green, but Albon has waltzed away from us, so we need to wait until the end of the lap to maybe, we thought about a move on the inside of Blanchimont, but I just thought better of it because Albon has other ideas. He wants to attack Vettel, and we're getting caught up in that. Bit of contact with the Red Bull as he tries to jockey for position with Sebastian Vettel, and behind Verstappen, like I said, on mediums himself, making moves. He's already overtaken the likes of Gasly. He's got Lawson, and now he's trying to get Valtteri Bottas. So Verstappen on a charge of maybe 4 overtakes in a lap and a half here, as he's now side by side still though with Bottas. That Haas very good in a straight line. They're going to be neck and neck right up Radion through to the Kemmel straight. There's nothing between them, and I'm sure Max will be driving with some frustration from what happened in the pit stops. Meanwhile, Albon having a go at Vettel, the two of them swerving, trying to maybe scare each other off the road. Albon on the inside, Vettel gets squeezed out. We're going to come through, pinch the P8, and then try and go round the outside of Albon. And you know what? Whilst we're at it, we're going to pay a little favour to our old pal, our old friend Sebastian Vettel, by squeezing Albon out really quite wide, and Vettel gets back into P8. So, you know, he may not be in the same sort of realm of pace this afternoon in this Grand Prix, but for certain we haven't forgotten what a good partnership and teammate Vettel was for us for for the last 2 seasons, so just paying him a little favour there. Meanwhile, behind, Liam Lawson now all over the back of Valtteri Bottas. Verstappen's pulled away, so this is showing. Bottas this season, by the way, he's quietly gone about his business, having a horrendous season. He's here fighting for P11. He's only got a handful of points, less than 10, I think, compared to his teammate who's leading this race and is in the championship fight. So, I thought Bottas was going to be like an experienced signing for Repsol Haas to give them a bit of grounded experience to take the team further. But instead, he's just really been a bit of a flop for Repsol Haas. And, questions have to be asked for their team in terms of fighting for the constructors of who they go alongside Drugovich, because Drugovich clearly has already got enough experience under his belt after last season. He's looking pretty damn good up in P1. Another man looking pretty good in the top flight is Mick Schumacher, having a wonderful race in the top 4 for Ferrari. Leclerc P3, Sainz P2. Like I said, 2 people I am also concerned about, along with Drugovich, in the championship fight order. I'm just hoping Sainz can maybe hold up Leclerc just to take some points off Leclerc, because obviously Sainz is a few more points back in the Drivers' Championship, as we now set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, so showing that we do have pace still on the hard tyres. No massive damage done from that Tsunoda incident. To be fair, I want to address that. It's a miracle that we're actually still in this race, because Tsunoda hit us with some gusto. So the fact that we got no damage on the floor or side pods is quite something. And so maybe I'm starting to believe the F1 gods are finally looking down upon us in this race as we continue our recovery, overtaking Russell. I thought so, but then George comes back at us and he's kept his foot in on the inside. He's forced us wide off circuit, plenty of curb, unsettling the car on the outside, and then brake checks us a little bit through the right-hander, and we just can't make a move around the outside. So maybe Russell has been given the message to hold us up as much as he can to aid his teammate Leclerc up there in the top 3, because the longer he holds us up, the less of a chance we have of catching the podium, guys, and going for some moves there. But now, like we did earlier in the race, can we just go down the inside? We can. Russell just gets flustered, no contact made, and yet he went wide through that right-hander, and we're up into P6. Now, our sights are going to be towards Lando Norris and Mick Schumacher. Meanwhile, Lawson continues to pressurise Bottas, and Bottas makes a mistake under said pressure, and Lawson up into P11, showing what progress he's made as a driver for Andretti Honda since he started his Formula 1 career. I mean, he's ahead of Fernando Alonso now. He's actually the lead Andretti in the championship. So, there are some signs actually about the older drivers now losing some pace. Vettel, Alonso, it's an interesting kind of development, I guess.
It looks like we might have an issue. Hang in there, we're attempting to manage it.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
That's never good. That's never a good radio to get, and we've been hurt so many times before by that radio call last season. Please, don't let it be. Come on, it can be a fuel issue. In ERS, I don't mind losing ERS for a lap or so. Please, F1 gods, I praised you just before we stayed in this race when we should have maybe had some damage to the floor. We're making a great recovery. P6, a few laps to go. No! The engine's gone. The engine's gone for the first time this season in Season 5. The engine has had a full-blown mechanical failure. The smoke plumes out the back of the exhaust, and that is going to be the end of our Belgian Grand Prix recovery drive, and it's going to end up being a double DNF for the Lotus AAR team. The Honda power units failed the Red Bull team quite a few times this season, but this is our first failure with the Honda PU. That is gutting. That is gutting. I actually was, after getting Russell and looking at the pace, I was actually quite confident we could actually maybe just catch Leclerc by the end of the race. But instead, Lady Luck had other ideas, and that is a DNF. The first DNF of our season, and I really hope that's the only DNF of our season.
What a great race then, and a magnificent victory here at the Belgian Grand Prix. And Anthony, tell me, what was it that helped them achieve this success?
Well, this was a real team victory. They put together a solid strategy today that appeared well suited to the conditions out on track. The driver did everything that was expected of them in the moment to really execute the team's plan to perfection. A shining example of how F1 really is a team sport.
Are no doubt happy with today's performance, having secured the win here this weekend, and our drivers are making their way out for the podium celebrations as we speak.
Felipe Drugovich loves Spa. I think it's for certain. He loves Spa on the F1 22 game because he got that first podium, remember, for our team in Season 1. This was the place of his first ever Formula 1 victory last season, and now he's won back-to-back Belgian Grand Prix in the next season here in Season 5. Leclerc managed to get Sainz for P2. Unfortunately, you can't ever watch the remainder of the races when you have a DNF, so Leclerc at some point got Sainz, so he does some good work to try and capitalise from our DNF. So Drugovich is going to get a full 25 points over us. Leclerc 18. So all of a sudden, I was talking at the start of the episode about, asserting some dominance on this season. 22 points ahead, and just like that, it's been eroded in one race because Drugovich now leads the way by 3 points to ourselves with 103. Leclerc's closed up now to a couple of points off us in third place. And it's a poor day in the office and the constructors as we lose a lot of ground to Mercedes with a double DNF. Of course, Tsunoda's DNF wasn't his fault, to be honest. And ironically, it's kind of even more of a shame that we had a DNF via an engine failure, because it's just such a waste that Tsunoda can continue. Because if I got the engine failure, at least he could have maybe got a podium for sure. But both of us out of the race, and so that's a really tough one to take today. But that's how the cookie crumbles. But you know what? The fact that, the likes of Lando have had so many failures. He's had 3 failures this season. Verstappen's had 2, I think it is. I am hopeful that we're not going to face the same gremlins as we did in Season 4. I don't think it's possible. Surely the game's coding can't be giving me another season like we did last year. And I hope that's just one of those one-off DNFs that you might have every season. And from now on, we'll be bulletproof, hopefully. And I hope so, because we've got the pace to be going for the win for most of these races until, the tracks come where maybe we're not so good. And that track actually might be next episode, the Italian Grand Prix. I reckon Haas are going to be so quick around there. And to be honest, other teams like Ferrari, they actually seem very good in a straight line. Schumacher and Verstappen have shown to be very good overtakers this season. I think that's on count of the Ferrari being very good in a straight line. So I think next episode might be quite interesting. And then we've got Imola, of course, with the sprint round, 2 back-to-back Italian Grand Prix. But this one has ended, not in the way I wanted to. But we move on, and let's not think about what happened in Season 4. It's a brand new season. Let's stay positive. It's 1 DNF. We're going to be right back there at Monza and hopefully trying to get some points back over Drugovich and Leclerc. But guys, if you have enjoyed this episode, hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.